Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome back to our Natural Health News live show today, where our main topic is going to cover the critical items that we just don't know about coronavirus and COVID-19. This is critical as we start to reopen and we start to assess our risk of going about our trying to get back to some form of normal. So welcome to all of you joining. Always love to know where you all are tuning in from. So let me know in the description box, and the chat, the live chat is on YouTube. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Today, I want to cover a whole bunch of news. There have been some additional reports out of the CDC I want to cover today. And then most critically, we are covering these 8 items that we still don't know enough about. And some of this has to do with we don't have enough time, and others have to do with we don't have enough funding, either in research or even the resources to pull all this together. So welcome to all of you. YouTube, let me know if you can hear this. It looks like those 26 people on the live chat is on, but it doesn't seem like anybody's commenting. So we'll see if there's a delay, but welcome. Let's kick off where we're at here in the world. We're at almost 5.6 million cases. The US is up to 1.716 million cases, and we are at the 100,000, actually surpassed 100,000 deaths, and we're at 100,191 deaths. So that is critical in terms of the projections that we were projected to definitely hit that number by June 1st. And we still have several days to go. Actually, I'm looking at May. So we actually have several days. So let's see, 2, 4, 5 days still left, and we've exceeded the projections. And I think that's very telling in terms of the science behind the projections. And unfortunately, the lack of some of the adherence to social distancing, greater mobility, we have to stay vigilant, friends. And that is something that I know we're having COVID fatigue, COVID news fatigue, but we can't let our guard down. And really, that's why I want to talk about the 8 things that we don't know. I hope this showcases we have to be vigilant. Okay, so New York, I just want to highlight a few states. New York, the Bronx is the worst hit of the New York boroughs. They also are the poorest borough, and there's obviously a huge connection there in terms of it's the borough with highest amount of cases, the highest hospitalizations, and the highest deaths. And their unemployment, the claims from a year ago to today, it's gone up by 2,000%. And there's been a lot of work in revitalizing the city and investments in small businesses and really growing that borough, that they're fearful that that's all going to just get washed away with this. And it's just telling that out of every borough in New York, it's the one where you have really tall buildings, really small little elevators that people have to ride, and that is part of the spread. But also we are looking at the socioeconomic component as well there, and maybe lower access to some of the testing as well. But regardless, that community is hit the hardest. And I know we have New Yorkers on, and it just is something we have to be really mindful that there are pockets in our communities that are getting hit the hardest. We're also seeing that in DC, where the 8th ward has the highest amount of cases, very similar to the same makeup as the Bronx. California is at 96,000. That's something we want to kind of notate. And Massachusetts and Pennsylvania, they're kind of hovering around the same numbers that we saw earlier. Georgia has increased. So Georgia is up to 44,000 cases. And then we put up 1,000 in a day, which is pretty substantial. The countries that we're assessing and looking at that are in the full-on growth mode, Brazil is almost at 400,000 cases. They will hit that probably before noon. And they are currently, the death rate, the daily death rate changes. Some countries, some cities are higher. But right now, Brazil's leading the daily death rate. And they have an average of or they're seeing the highest average in that, and there's an expectation that by August they will be at 125,000 deaths. So they may end up exceeding us in the quantity of deaths just because of that the ratio. And I'll talk a little bit more about that because they are also facing the same kind of challenges the US is facing with testing, lack of access, and things like that. Russia's at 370,000. So we're monitoring that. But the hotspots, the World Health Organization has identified the core hotspots of growth are the Americas, particularly Latin America. I mean, the US, obviously, we lead that charge. But in Latin America, countries apart from Brazil, Peru has a significant amount of cases and it's on the rise. Chile, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Nicaragua. So those are countries that we're looking at. We also have seen some changes in terms of the travel bans to some of those countries in and out of the US and coming to. Last thing I read were Americans in Brazil are trying to get out sooner than later. Now, on the travel front, I want to talk a little bit about some travel news. The travel industry is being led by Boeing and Airbus SE. They have compiled a group focused on studying the COVID behavior on airplanes. And so they're trying to create a simulated environment, introduce the COVID virus, and see what happens. How does this, is it different? What is how is the travel impacted? The influence of pressure, the smaller cabin space, the airflow. What they're really trying to do is they're aiming at trying to make us feel safer, but also aiming at figuring out a plan of attack for the industry. And the FAA is very much in tune with this. And they have gathered basically a board of academics and medical experts and different engineers to come together and evaluate what does the behavior of COVID-19 look like, and then put in place recommendations and suggestions for measures to take. Let's say the bathroom has, the greatest transmissibility. Well, then they were talking about using UV lights and things like that to sanitize the bathroom. So that is encouraging for many of us who travel a lot for our businesses or work, or like to travel for leisure. The plane right now is not where you want to be for a multitude of reasons. One of the things we do know is the AC is part of the factor. Okay. The other thing on the hotel front or travel front are hotels. So the hotel communities are talking about really identifying the ways the hotel industry can make it safer for individuals. Part of this is both of these, travel and leisure. These industries recognize that people won't start traveling and leisuring until they feel safe. And safety is partly our assessment of how risky is staying in a hotel room or getting on a plane. And right now, many points of these 8 questions or things we still don't know about COVID are a factor. So the hotel industry is trying to kind of pivot and utilize technology more. For instance, they're looking at contactless everything, contactless check-in, mobile keys, which is kind of an interesting thing. Any of you, especially ladies, I always get demagnetized, like my keys never work. And so mobile keys are something they're talking about. SMS and chat functions, the kind of automated chat option on your phone instead of having to pick up a telephone in the room. Then also food delivery robots is something they're looking at, germ killing robots with the UV sanitation, the UVS. That is something that we're seeing in Philadelphia or Pittsburgh airport utilizing as a test here in the US. We're seeing this as a tester in Hong Kong. But that's something the hotels want to look at as well. Then the other thing is reducing the amount of rooms that are open, decreasing the availability down to 60% and staggering. So you don't have, 2 people, like one room would be open and then the next room would be occupied and then the room next door would be occupied. Then also looking at decreasing the hot spots, the elevator being the big one. where there's a lot of touch points and things like that. So my sense, I haven't read anything to notate this, so this is just my sense. My sense is that there are probably going to be elevator manufacturers that are probably working on some sort of addition or add-on to like an elevator. So for instance, if you are riding an elevator, if they had some sort of UV sensor that it wouldn't go on until you leave and the elevator's empty, then they could sanitize. I mean, that totally makes sense. So that could really be a way of all different elevators and things like that to just sanitize when there's no use of the elevator bucket or whatever. I don't know what they call that thing, but so that's something to think about. And also we're seeing potential reduction of buffet services. So I see Tammy from Virginia. Tammy says, our freedoms are going to be taken away. No, that's not true. The predictability or the likelihood of you getting sick is what's being taken away. I do not understand the overreaction. We have a deadly virus. It's a novel pandemic, Tammy, and this is it's killed over 100,000 people in America. We have 1.7 million people who've had this and 100,000 who've died. That is just not some sort of like blasé thing. And I'm sorry, your freedoms are not getting suppressed. I mean, that's just BS. And so, Tammy, you are overreacting. It's not the community at large, but you are overreacting with this. Okay, so sorry, Instagram, we have a potential bot on here, Tammy from Virginia, just spewing just nonsense about freedoms being taken away. I don't know anybody who has been in the hospital or has been interviewed or who has had a ventilator stuck down their trachea who has had the situation where they've said, oh, my freedoms have been taken away. They actually want to live. There's a big difference, Tammy. And I'm sure you're probably one of these people not wearing masks, not sanitizing, could be asymptomatic and could be completely infecting everybody. How could you live with yourself if that were the case? And the public safety, we have to table our selfishness. We have a responsibility with rights to be mobile. We have responsibilities, and the responsibility is on you and me and all of us to keep each other healthy and safe. And it's not so much of a mask protecting you as it is protecting everybody from you. Most of it's a protection of ignorance. Most people are walking around completely clueless that they're asymptomatic. That's the problem. And Tammy, you wouldn't know that unless you get tested. And my question to you, and feel free to comment down below, have you been tested? And by the way, as we talk about testing, this is something also I want to notate for any of the Tammys out there. So we're going to move from Karens to Tammys in our feed. So one of the things that we need to know is that the CDC's released information about the antibody testing. We call them the serologic testing. Yesterday, if you want to review yesterday's video, which by the way, any of you dealing with stress and like anxiety, hormonal imbalances, sleep imbalances, thyroid imbalances, autoimmunity, you name it, in the hormone endocrine spectrum, yesterday's video is very beneficial for all of you to talk a little bit about how to support those glands. But what we're seeing is the CDC has identified that the antibody testing, there are 11 states that have acknowledged they were using the serologic testing as part of their numbers in reporting cases. One of the things that the guidelines that the CDC's put out, and what we know from observing the test, the efficacy, the accuracy of the antibody test is only 49%. That sucks. Like that's a fail. That's a failing letter grade in terms of the predictive value of that test. So a lot of people go, well, I'll just get an antibody test and I'm totally fine. No, the likelihood of it being inaccurate is 51%. So that is significant. Accuracy, we need it to be in the 80s, at least 85, 90%. That's my comfort level, and why I'll wait until we get more accuracy from either that lab or another lab. But the other thing too is time is a factor, and we'll get into that in these 8 points, but it's very, very important that we understand time is of the essence, and we don't have enough time. As I've mentioned to Tammy, Tammy, if you're going to sit here and spew BS, please log off. My community doesn't need your time waste. So her latest comment is, I've watched doctors who know more than you. This is a fear porn channel. And by the way, that word is going to get you kicked off YouTube. So please give me a break. The CDC has spread so much inaccurate information. I am not going to disagree that we have a department that is failing, but it's the bureaucracy that's failing. I believe in the scientists and I believe in the doctors that work at the CDC. It's the bureaucracy. And it's from the leadership. It's from the leadership here in Atlanta, which, by the way, I live in Atlanta for any of you. The CDC is based here. And it's the political bureaucracy. We have a novel virus that is apolitical. And you and a lot of other people are making it political. It's not political. I'm sorry, you need to table your selfishness. So I'm going to highlight some comments. So Sunny M 76, it's so upsetting people have become so selfish. Yes, the Tammys of the world are very selfish. Life in America is on hold because of selfish people. And in fact, because of Tammy and all the other folks that think like her. I'm sure you think it's a conspiracy too. The challenge here is that they're going to slow our ability to get back to normal. And we are literally looking at, I was listening to one of the world's greatest epidemiological economic she's a really unique individual. She's both epidemiology plus economics in her focus. She's predicting 3 years that things are not going to go back to normal. And the reality is that was BC, before coronavirus. That life that we all lived doesn't exist anymore. So Tammy, you need to kind of move with the paradigm shift. Mentally, you're never going back there. The economy is not going to be where it was. It's not going to happen overnight. Health-wise, we have a lot to do to recover and repair the open holes, the gaping holes we see in our healthcare system, particularly our friends and family members and our loved ones and our social circles and our colleagues and our professionals we work with that are of the colors, that are Black and Latino, and individuals in areas where there's not enough education, there's not enough resources, there's too many people jammed in trying to ride an elevator and they wait an hour. That is literally happening in the Bronx. And I guarantee if you poll any of those individuals, they would love some more freedom of space, because you're probably in that zone. Speaking from a self-righteous high horse, it's time for us to all get real. And I'm sorry, you guys, I didn't intend for this to be this way, but Tammys have really, they're destroying our ability to get well as a country, as a nation. And it's horrifying that we have people out there that think like this. Paradise Ave, fact, science, and the respect for other human beings will help us survive this pandemic. Absolutely. So anyway, but the reality is, I am not going to, my reporting to you, I'm going to give you facts, science, and data. I have not been a woo, go CDC. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in the fact that we've got a segment in the, upper segment, the bureaucratic segment of the CDC that is literally dragging this through the mud. But there are people there that are lifers and they are doing really good work. And we have to go with what we know. And today we're going to talk about what we don't know. And you know what? Human inclination is to try and create knowns. And one of the things I think that is the undercurrent, again, this is just my opinion, the undercurrent of a lot of the misinformation, the, kind of fear mongering, or the, what we would call the conspiracy theories. It's trying to identify a source. We saw, the name of the virus being a country. Well, we now know that that's completely inaccurate. Just the DNA didn't even come from that country. Certain segments of the DNA was not the most prevalent DNA of what we're dealing with. And it's just human nature, but it's a lower level human nature. We need to rise above. And so the BC time, we're in a paradigm shift. We're also going to be seeing a paradigm shift in the medical community. They are definitely forced to think outside the box. This is a good thing for us because they're thinking, and some are using vitamin C therapies. They're using other kind of modalities, stem cells being one of the things, the antibody injections. Those are all paradigm shifts. I don't think we would have seen ever an ER doctor. No, I'm not going to say ER doctor. They're pretty they're pretty progressive, but like an ICU doctor that just, it's like the same routine. That's how they've been trained. The way this virus is presenting in different bodies, different age groups, as well as we see with the children, it's forcing them to think outside the box. That's a good thing. And so I'm not saying that is a success by any means, but we are seeing a shift. Everybody is shifting. And AC after coronavirus, we're not there either. We're in it. We are in the coronavirus time. And so the AC won't happen until probably 3.5, 4 years, 5 years down the road. So we all just have to take a deep breath. And so I'm going to do it in through the nose, hold, and then out through the mouth. Okay. So it's just something we just need to know. So I'm just going to read some comments here because you guys are a community. I really value your support. The Tammys of the world. I'd love for them to be open-minded when they come to watch my channel, but they're just not. And I just can't sit and observe nonsense anymore. The time of that's past. Like I have the ability to help educate and highlight things that they need to know. And most of the people don't want to hear that when they come on and they just want to spam our chat box. So, okay. We have IC 2009 BA. Absolutely. Dr. Melissa. I try. I admit my son works for a detention center, jail center. I worry for him. I'm scared. I care for each and every one of us. I know. I totally feel you. Diane Sawyer special last night was excellent. Oh, I have to watch that. I'm in mommy zone, so I have not been watching any TV except when Brian we're trying to finish up the Game of Thrones. I had to skip a season because it was too anxiety producing. Okay, Letitia, don't let Tammy get into you. She is irrelevant and has less knowledge. Lois, I'm here to learn, not to teach. Teachers can always open their own channel and preach to their choir. True. Nancy, selfishness. Yeah. Okay, so Christine, I feel empowered by learning. Yay. Love the glandular show. I didn't know much about that topic. Yeah, I actually, I need to do more on that, each gland. Okay, so anyway, sadly, conspiracy theories are coming from the top leadership, and that's really affecting everyone negatively. Absolutely. Okay, so thanks, Pat. Thank you for the moderation. I am Felicia Butts. So it just becomes really critical that we be tuned in to the world that we live in. Okay, so Cheryl knows the young lady that was in the Diane Sawyer piece. She's under 50. She was the one who, ate in the hospital, learned of her friend who died. Oh, it's terrible. Okay, so I want to share some additional news because the CDC, I mean, it is what it is. And sometimes in life, we just can't control everything. We just have to let go. And some of that is we just have to accept the information that we know. We have to look for truthful information. And I promise for each and every one of you, I do the digging and I spend time to get you impactful information. So the CDC released some information about the healthcare. It's basically an update to the healthcare workers and the cases of healthcare workers who have tested positive. This is substantial. So out of 1.7 million cases, over 62,000 of our healthcare workers have tested positive. The death data, this is the other challenge. The death data is only known on 57% of the 291 deaths. So that is where some of the gap is. So the reporting, and I've highlighted a little bit of the challenges with reporting. Every county, every city, every state will have a different methodology of dealing with deaths in their area. Sometimes it's a medical examiner, sometimes it's the coroner, sometimes it's the morgue at a nursing center or wherever it is. The challenge in the reporting is we're only as good as the info that goes into the system. And what the CDC said, only 57% of the information about the data on the deaths has gone in the system. So I don't know what is behind that. I don't know if there's, 43% of those, maybe they've died on their own. Is there suicide that's in there? I don't know. So, there's a lack of information. And that's the other challenge with this virus is we don't have 100% of the information. It's like, putting in ingredients. They're not clean ingredients. So it's like half of everything that you need, or, you're going to make a cake and you're missing eggs and you don't have flaxseed as a backup. It's like, okay, how do you make a cake? So that's what some of the data we're dealing with. But the one thing the U.S. Nursing Association did come out, and because I did more digging, only 16% of all U.S. nurses have been tested for COVID-19. Okay, that should be a number that needs to be blaring on all of the news stations and on the news. If we have we have a healthcare system, and these individuals are frontline and being exposed to COVID, and are working in centers that have that, and we've only seen 16% of them tested, we have a major, major problem. So that is a serious problem. So that's the news of the day. Kathleen, as bad as this virus is, it's not yet nearly as bad as past pandemics in history. The good thing is that we as humans can learn how to behave and deal with a contagious disease. Thanks, David and David King J. Totally. That's just, I can't even go there. It makes me so mad. Cupcake Paper. Can we do a show on Alzheimer's? Probably not on this particular show, but on one of my kind of edited videos. Oh, Letitia, $10. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay, so what I want to do, I want to go over 8 questions that we don't know. Okay. And this is it is what it is. It can be infuriating. It can be frustrating. It can make you feel like, oh my gosh, I need to have some sense of grounding. But we just have to remember this is new. We've not approached any virus like this. We haven't approached anything that mutates in this form, nor have we seen anything that has the body react in such a vile way. So the question still remains is how is it spread? How is coronavirus, how is COVID-19 spread? We don't know. The second question, what's the transmissibility with surfaces? We don't know that. We don't know if the droplets on a surface we know that there's active virus, but is it transmissible? That's the big question mark. This is a big question mark as everybody's starting to get back in more social settings. How does the airflow and AC spread the virus? We don't know that 100%. There's up to 2 weeks ago, there was one really small study over in China, back when the beginning of this happened, where there was one positive case. There were 7 other individuals in a restaurant. They weren't near the individual in the restaurant. All of them came down with the virus. And the contact tracer identified that was the source of transmission, or could be. I mean, again, this is one of those things, contact tracing, and you just have, if you lower your risk, you have limited contact. So we might have some identity of your source, but it might not always be the case. So that's a variable. But the big question is airflow. Do AC units, are they spreading these viral droplets? That's a big question mark. There are studies happening. There for sure is research happening right now. Okay, then the other question is, what truly is the fatality rate for the virus? And we 100% don't know that for sure. I mean, we have quantity, we have a number of cases, we have a number of deaths. As you're seeing, there's gaps with the death, the death information for the healthcare workers that have tested positive. But until we fully identify the number of those infected, that's truly the only way we can actually know the true percentage of the death rate, or the number on our death rate. And that also differs amongst age groups, populations, locations. We see the factory communities. We've seen some church exposure. We've seen buildings like the Bronx for sure. There's one building that they're like, they call them the death towers, because they're really high and there's only one way up and down. It's an elevator. So different populations, different communities, different ethnic backgrounds, and also two, different health risk and health factors. So there's a lot at play there. We just don't know the fatality rate. And I've had people log in, we have a low fatality rate. Well, do we really know what that is? We don't. The other question is, do we know what drugs are going to be working? Which ones are successful, which ones are not? We don't know. I mean, we are in the early days. I used to do, when I was in with, I worked, I put myself through school. So my master's and my doctorate, I worked in healthcare, but also staffing. So I worked with a company that we used to do placements for hospital staff, all different types of staff, nursing. And there was one division that did scientific based staffing, and they worked with the big pharma. And I mean, the trials take forever. There's a lot of manpower needed. There's just a lot of time, and we don't have the time to really have a true identity of what is and what isn't working. And that's a perfect example is the hydroxychloroquine. That is not recommended. The FDA is trying to get that off as any type of verbiage or language as promotive. It's not. Too many risk factors. So that's one factor. The other factor is we don't know the length of time a positive person can be infectious. So if you're positive and you recover, are you still infectious? We don't know also the amount of time that they have been infectious. I mean, the asymptomatic players are highlighting that factor. And one of the things that we just don't know is that transmissibility with an infected person. And that might also have to do with something where you have a spouse or a family member, one gets sick, and there's a period of several days before they get sick where the virus is taking effect and they're contagious, but nobody knows it because they're not showing symptoms or showcasing any type of viral exposure. So that's a big question. We just don't know the long-term effects of the virus either. There's not enough time to know these folks that have had, they've been on ventilation, they've had chest tubes, dialysis. We just don't know the effect of it. For those who had strokes, what's the long-term effect? Brian's monitoring that one Broadway singer. Poor guy. I mean, he's just gone up and down. He's been in the hospital since March. And, he's had his leg amputated. He had all these microclots. He's just not recovering very well. And that's a real severe case. But for milder cases, what is that going to look like long-term? We don't know that. And then a common question for, Pat, they're new kitty owners. They just adopted 2 cute little kitty cats. But the big question is, we don't know if cats can give, animals can give us the virus. We do know that they have caught it from us. We've seen that. We've seen a dog more recently here in the US. So we don't know if there's also that zoological kind of component where that might also be a factor. There's just a lot of factors at play that we just don't know. And the challenge here is it's totally human nature to want to know. I want to know the death rate or to debate the death rates and things like that. It's a moving target. Okay. Let's see. Susie Penguin, I don't know who you are. I don't know your background, but I really base my information about medical drugs from scientists and the clinicians that are in those research labs, and not just Joe Blows that are like, oh, take it with zinc. That's not been proven. And in fact, it is very harmful. And so none of us who take oaths to do no harm can even recommend that. So you need to stop doing that. And I have a feeling that at some point there will be personal liability in people communicating things that are just totally, it's not founded, it's proven not to be effective. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to delete that comment because I can't support that language here. For anybody who watches on the replay, they have access to the live chat, and I can't get behind that. Yes, I'm censoring the live chat. So be it. Okay. The YouTube censors all the time, people. All right. So that is the scary part. Are they recovered truly or still typhoid Mary? Yeah. And that's a big question mark. Okay. So let's see. Let's see. I want to answer some questions. Okay. Ridrock, Rachel. See, do you think everyone should get tested whether they have symptoms or not? I was thinking of getting tested. Honestly, so depending on your area, some areas you have a little bit more leeway to get tested. But so here's the one thing, going back to like the antibody testing, when a person has had the coronavirus, they develop antibodies usually between 1 and 2 weeks. And that still might be moving, but that's what they're kind of seeing. That's the normal kind of immune response. It's the immune response, and you can see these antibodies. So there might be delays in that antibody response. But, if you feel like you have symptoms or not, or you've had exposure, and let's say you're going to work and you're more social, it might not be a bad idea, but you might test negative. The other thing too is that we have to know with some of the viral testing, there's saliva, there's the, nasal swab, there's serum, blood serum. Some of these tests are not accurate either. And so I want to say on Facebook, oh man, it was a healthcare system that was using some vendor that apparently the accuracy was not there. And they had to mail out letters to all these people they had tested that they had said you were negative. And she posted the picture, it was like Advent Health or something. And it basically read, look, you tested negative, but we really don't know. You might be positive. You need to get another test. Like, what? Oh my gosh. And, they're not free. So you have a few $100s that you might spend. There might be a copay or whatnot. I know the other thing that companies are doing, because I'm on the corporate based feeds and reading as the professional business owner side of things, there are companies that are outsourcing the testing. So they will come in and test your employees every week, or they'll do a series of testing as you start re-engaging your community, your population back into the building. For example, Brian, his company is back online. I think it's the 7th of June. And then a week later, they would like him to come in. And so, and his company reported multiple times, they're kind of stuck in the 80s. They haven't paradigm shifted in a whole lot of ways. I mean, like 80s all the way, very male focused, very different, certain type of male that gets promoted, all that stuff. It's horrible. But, they may be engaging with a company like that. And so I think if you feel like you've been exposed, have been more social or whatnot, it's not a bad idea. I think if you can and you get access to, yes, do it. Just do a little research on the labs. There are certain labs that we have some sense. Call around, ask your doctor, and talk with other individuals who have maybe done testing or felt comfortable there. Hi, Shelly R. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the $5 live chat. Yay, thank you. So that, and I don't know offhand, there's a lot of tests that have just been pushed through. And that's one of the challenges. The immediacy and the speed to us reacting yields missing some of these steps and measurement, the measuring kind of thresholds to make sure things are clear and safe. And that will also be, and I don't want this to be a debate, but the world is working on a vaccine. There's two types. There's a DNA and then an RNA. Those are two different types of elements of the virus. They're in human test. One is in human testing. We don't know what that's going to look like. And the fact that we don't have time could mean we might roll something out that could be harmful. And that tends to be the case. We see this with pharmaceuticals where they'll get pulled 5-6 years because they were pushing to get this on the market. So, regardless of the whole vaccine component, we don't have time on our side. We don't have the perspective of time either. We have several months at best of perspective. And I have to say, I frankly am quite impressed with the data we are getting. I'm frankly impressed by all the research and the population of people digging in, redirecting research, redirecting some of the clinical trials and things they're doing to pivot. That is quite impressive. And I don't think they're getting enough credit for that. So, so those are 8 questions that we don't know enough about. Kathleen says, how often does one test to be up to date on positive or negative? I mean, weekly probably would be the most accurate. I know some are doing daily. I don't know if that's, I mean, I think it is horrifying that we have only 16% of our US nurses who have been tested. What? These people are the front line. We should be testing all of them. And you know, we still have shortages. We still have challenges with some of the components. And then the other thing, friends, we need to think about Brazil moving up. Guess what? We're going to have a harder time getting access to some of these things. So Russia as well. I think Brazil is on the track like New York City. I think we are going to see them. They're going to be at 1 million, probably, I'd say by mid, I don't know. A lot can happen in June. They might be in the millions by July. I mean, that's substantial. That's a lot of people. And I've never been to Brazil, but I have friends who have, and they have been like they love the community, love the culture, but quite horrified by the slum kind of community that keeps people so enclosed in dense spaces. That is just like a match. It's like Notre Dame, the fire with the old wood. It's just a bad situation. And that makes me really nervous for those folks down there. And the medical aid they're going to need. I mean, that unfortunately their leader is a total COVID denier. Like, I don't understand how you deny almost 400,000 people having it, and it's not a deal. Okay, so system froze. Hey, Anita, how are you doing? Let's see. Rachel says, I'm dreading going back to work. Dreading going back to work. I heard from one manager that my position may become the new normal to work from home. Yay. So yeah, so that I think is definitely one of the things. Twitter is moving a lot of their folks at home. And even companies that own buildings, they're starting to assess, do we need this building? And the other two, the investments we have to make to keep things healthy and safe. Yeah, Birdhouse Barbie says, Brazil, love the people, but scary flights in and out, sad, very sad. Yeah, they're like, I have to emotionally, empathically disconnect because I just feel like such bad connection, not connection, but like just, it's gonna be really bad. Especially when the leadership are deniers. There's just no way to support a community when, the leader of the country, and I'm talking about Brazil, goes and supports all these people protesting the idea of a lockdown or quarantine. Nobody's masked up. He's not masked up. Somebody breaks the barrier and like runs up to him and he hugs him and like, oh my gosh, unseen, like I just see unseen viral particles, and we already know from epidemiological contact tracing, just those populations, like Italy, went back to some soccer game in February. We could identify Mardi Gras. We could identify some of these big community components as factors that spread the virus. It's just mind blowing to me. We are definitely in a weird world. Okay. So Beautiful Awakening. There was a documentary in India where the pharmaceutical manufacturing factories are. The filter wastewater still contains antibiotics. And as a result, there's antibiotic resistant bacteria. Oh, yes. So one of my employees actually works in India, and they're in full lockdown mode. I've been there. I've only done the upper northern part. At some point in my life, I want to go south. I loved India. It is eye-opening. I think it helped that I had done trekking in Nepal before I went there. but it is such a dichotomy. You'll have a huge mansion on acres of land and then hovels and cows in the middle of the road. It's just really quite a sensory overload. But the big thing they're talking about is that India does house a lot of pharmaceutical manufacturing. A lot of times we don't know that. It's also a big industry. India and Thailand are places where people go to get surgeries done. So it's cheaper surgeries. So people actually fly and go get plastic surgery done, liposuction, all different, like rhinoplasty, all different types of post-surgical work. I've had people fly in and come to me having gone to some of these different countries. The challenge there in the pharmaceutical world is that when they go into shutdown like they are, that is going to plague our healthcare system with the lack of some of the medicines. We were seeing that when they were trying to put so many people on ventilation, you have to sedate somebody and you have to keep them sedated. So it's like a self-induced, a medically induced coma. Well, let's just think about Brazil. Brazil's going to be in that state. They are going to need those medications. And so when you have everybody needing and demanding a certain supply of things, and the supply chain has melted down, we're going to have supply chain challenges. We're going to see that. We will for sure. We'll see that in Brazil. We'll probably see that also in Russia, if not already. Russia's its own bag. We're not getting a whole lot of reporting out of there. Not surprising. But Vicky Lynn says, good morning. My new normal is working from home and limit my trips to the store in and out and always wearing a mask. Yay, Vicky. Donna, I've been working from home since March 20th and don't mind it all so far. Deb W, that's why I was wondering why Brazil continued with their carnival celebration. I know. Beachy Chick 6, so many people at the lakes and rivers here in Sacramento. I hear so many people saying, it's fine. More people die of the flu. So many people obviously over it and not wearing masks and not social distancing. Yeah. I mean, I'm over it too. I mean, we are, if you guys are curious, I can do some posting today. We're testing out mommy camp. I mean, literally like this is full homeschool. I'm shifting my schedule around, refocusing. Gabriel's year-end review with the school was like a one-liner. Not exactly what we had hoped for or paying for from a private school. So we're going to possibly look at me homeschooling him next year. And wow, for all you teachers out there, I have like mad props. I used to play school when I was little. I loved it. I had like a chalkboard and I had friends over that were younger and I'd teach everybody. Well, this is like a totally different bag. Like the amount of stuff we need that I don't have. We just have a lot of play toys and stuff. And plus I'm a pack rat and I've held on to stuff. I've held on to like everything he's had. I have baby toys still. Like, I don't know why. But yeah, mommy camp, Letitia, mommy camp is still being organized. I posted, if you guys want to see my story yesterday, we had Amazon delivery. I'm doing comparisons. So eBay, I can get some good deals and I'm like wheeling and dealing with people because I'm all about reusing, especially with kid stuff. We have a destroyer. Why pay new? Because it's going to get destroyed. I do that with clothes as well, and when it gets to the age, fine, whatever. But like for now, we're just, I'm using eBay and then I'll do a comparison checking. And in fact, Amazon's been quite cheaper on some of these. I can just get a newer item. If we use it, we'll resell it on eBay. But yeah, it's going. Jenny saw Dog get all her supplies, equipment for mommy camp. Yeah, Maria's been working from home since February, got out once a week, groceries and pharmacy, wearing masks, gloves. I'm so glad. Yeah, people are still oblivious. I told Brian, we're quite disconnected. If you guys have ever traveled internationally, there's a disconnect in death. The ceremonies and rituals that a lot of people have, it's very public, like when I was in India, where was it? Oh, it was Calcutta. They had this, no, it was actually Varanasi. Varanasi is this, I'm calling it beautiful because it was very smoggy, but it's this beautiful town full of color and spices and just really unique town on the river. And they have the burning ghats. So that's part of the ritual after somebody dies. And to get to the burning ghats, they actually bring the bodies through. They like march them through the town. And it's all the time. And like, I remember the first time I saw a burning gat and that kind of ritual was in Nepal, and we're just so not exposed to it. So that like disconnect, I think we have that. And I think that's the other reason why we're not, 100,000 people. That's well more than a college football stadium. Okay. That's a significant amount of people who have died. We can't, like, our mental process, it's a number, and we haven't made that like visual emotional connection to those are people, those are family members, those are community members, those are leaders, their mothers, grandmothers, grandfathers, aunts, uncles, sisters. There are people, they're us, and we are not connected. And that, I told Brandon, like, we should be showing this. We should be zeroing in on the body bags. I know that sounds horrible, but that may make people have a connection to it more. Do I want my child seeing that? No, but there's a degree of like our population. We have all these video games. I'm not making a statement about this, but we have video games and like there's death on video games and stuff, but we don't make that connection. There's a different kind of connectivity when you see an actual dead body. And the only one that I had seen up until I was in my 20s was my grandfather. That's the only one person in my family that I ever saw with an open casket. And, there's a disconnect. Some people don't even ever see that, or they don't want to see it, but we need to get connected to that number. So it is crazy. Let's see. Maria, I am multitasking. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. But like already I'm setting it up so that hopefully I can still do our lives, where he'll do some Khan Academy Circle Time videos, and then Blippy's awesome. Blippy's this really cool guy on YouTube. And so he does that while I'm working with you all. But this morning, like as I was getting ready and running downstairs and, writing up all my notes and stuff and finalizing the show, I've got it set up right now where it's kind of Montessori style. So it's minimalistic, but it's also segmented. And so I moved some furniture up, and I'll show you guys. I'll do like a little video tour on my Instagram. But I have little areas and little play zones. And so he like pulled out his Play-Doh and was playing Play-Doh, didn't want the TV turned on. We have the little, called the movie room. It's just above here. So this used to be a big open room, and the people before us put in the ceiling. So it's an angled room like this. Can't really do a whole lot with it. And it's got like a little pocket door. So I can't get a lot of furniture in, but I have a couch and a TV. And I have to say, Whitney, we're getting excited. This morning, I had him draw a spaceship. He put on boosters, and he was like, mine's going off at night. So I was like, can we see fire and use different colors? And so we're going to be watching the Dragon Crew launch. I think it's at 4:30 today. Hopefully the weather's okay. Today is the day we launch. Yay, astronauts for the first time in space since 2010. And my like growing up little girl in Florida is getting really excited. But I have to say I'm a little nervous. I was like, I don't know if we want to do this live. Like I was a second grader when the Challenger explosion happened. And like I think every school age child was watching it, but like you could go outside because it comes right over St. Pete in Florida, or St. Pete in Tampa. And like you could see those clouds for hours. It was like the whole day. It was awful. So I'm a little nervous about that. But that's like the back, like my own trauma percolating. And so he is very, very excited. And we're really excited that they've got all the touchscreens and, he's Elon Musked it. So very exciting. Let's see, Pat, I thought you were saying you had a beautiful awakening. Let's see. Thanks for asking my question. Oh, Letitia, thank you. And thank you for the super chat. Letitia lives in the Bronx. Susie Penguin. Let's see, Christine, love to use all kinds of different homeschool curriculum over the years. Yeah. So like, I don't even have things like, like there's some basics I've got to get. And I don't know if it's just my age. I'm in my early 40s. Like I'm so disconnected from that. But let's see. We used alpha, omega, and Saxon. Okay, writing that down. But I will tell you, this is crazy. So yesterday, and this is my last thing because you guys are really great. Yesterday morning, Gabriel came to bed and he's like, "Mommy, when are you going to pop out another baby?" And I was like, "Whoa, hold up." What? So I think it's telling he's spending a lot of solo time with us. And I think it'd be great. I think he thinks it would be great if he had a friend to play with, because he sees our neighbors, they all have siblings and they're all playing together. So it would not be great for all the stuff we want to do that's been postponed this year to next year. So, but yeah, so wish me luck on my homeschool. I have a few more things that are coming in today and tomorrow, and I'm going to order some more things off of eBay. So like flashcards and laminated stuff, and yeah, it's exciting. All right, so friends, let's see. Alexa says, yes, the trauma that healthcare communities experience is enormous. We need to support them and one another through this. It's totally true. And the stress levels are really high down in Cape Canaveral. Yeah, it's part of it. I don't think I would have been nervous, except for being a young child, seeing that. Clutterbug, take a bag, 21 items a day you don't need. Yes, so I'm actually I'm reselling stuff on eBay. So it's my way of like minimizing our costs, but also just in and out. It's just this flow. So as many things sell, I bring in. Really, it's not the point of minimizing, but I'm working on it. I got my closet to work on, a whole bunch of stuff. So, but we're excited. So yeah, he is totally missing his friends. We've done some video chats and things like that with his friends. The challenge at this age is that the attention span is so limited anyway. And then like two friends talking, basically the other mom and I are like having a chat, and they're like, "Come back here," because they just run off, or they're like, "Well, I'm going to take you to show you my room," and like they run off with the phone, and then like all they see is the ceiling as the child's running. Gabriel did that with one of his teachers, and he like took her on the trampoline, my little mini trampoline. So it's crazy. Only child wants siblings, and siblings want to be only child. Yeah, how true is that? So let's see. Definitely, for sure, hoping that, I'm really nervous about Brazil. And I'm hoping we get some, I'm curious to see the CDC MMWR. I've been waiting on that. The last ones haven't been so substantial. I will say they did pump out a ton of information last week. Doctor number 2 in that organization, she's put out some pretty good stuff. I think she's been there's some censorship happening. But I'll keep reporting stuff as I get through it. Lovely blouses. Okay. I know I should know this. I will find out what my YouTube handle is for tomorrow, or not YouTube, my eBay. I don't know what it is. Yeah, it is not like a business name, and it's not my personal name. It's some name I can't remember. Okay. All right. So I hope all of you have a good day. I'm going to go run upstairs now. It's real true mommy camp time. So I've got activities. I have a lesson plan. I'm very excited. So I got to get glue. I got to get a whole bunch of stuff. And yeah, wish me luck. All right, guys, have a great day. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for dealing with my little rant. I got really kind of jazzed up and excited by that one individual. And the thing is that we have to address those folks when they do come on and are so blatantly oblivious to statistics and real world information. It's harmful. I do know we're not changing their minds, but we got to put a barrier up. Okay. All right, friends, stay tuned. And if you are interested, follow me on Instagram if you want to see Mommy Camp. Bye. See you guys later. Thank you so much for tuning in, YouTube. And thank you for our live chat. I really appreciate Shelly R. and Letitia. You guys are so wonderful. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye, everybody. See you tomorrow. Thanks, Pat and Ron.